You know, when we talk about the Titanic, we usually focus on the shipwreck itself, right? The mechanics of it. But tonight, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to explore the human story, the emotional journey of over 2,000 people as their world and their belief in the impossible sank right out from under them.
I mean, just listen to that. So simple, but so gut-wrenching. That's a quote from someone who was there. And you know that sadness? It all started from a place of absolute, unshakable confidence. And that's what makes this whole story so deeply chilling.
So, picture it. It's 11:40 at night. For every single person on board, the wealthiest industrialists, the crew, immigrants chasing a new life, the clock has just started ticking. And the craziest part, almost none of them have any idea.
Okay, so to really understand the terror that came later, you first have to get your head around the incredible level of confidence everyone had in this ship. Seriously, this wasn't just a vessel, it was a symbol, a massive statement that humanity had conquered the elements.
And look, this unsinkable idea, it wasn't just some marketing gimmick. The engineering behind it was extraordinary for the time. It had a double-bottomed hull, it had 16 separate watertight compartments. The whole thinking was, hey, even if 4 of these somehow flooded, the ship would still stay afloat. The notion of breaching more than 4 at once, it was literally considered impossible.
So, while the passengers maybe felt a little shudder, something they could just shrug off, for the crew on the bridge and down in the engine rooms, the next few minutes were the beginning of an absolute nightmare. A nightmare they had to keep to themselves.
I mean, you couldn't have written a worse set of circumstances. It was a moonless night, so visibility was just terrible. The wind was so bitterly cold it was making the lookout's eyes water, making it even harder to see anything. And here's the kicker. Despite getting at least 7 ice warnings that day, the ship was still plowing ahead at nearly full speed. They were under pressure to set a new record.
And then it happens. At 11:39 p.m., a frantic scream comes down the phone from the crow's nest. "Iceberg, right ahead!" Just 1 minute later, it's too late. By midnight, the ship's own architect, Thomas Andrews, is down below assessing the damage. And he knows. He knows almost instantly.
So here it is, the fatal flaw. The impossible had just happened. The iceberg didn't just punch a single hole, it grazed along the side, gashing open 6 of those so-called watertight compartments. The math was simple, and it was deadly. The unsinkable ship was going to sink.
But that horrifying knowledge, it was confined to a tiny group of officers. For all the passengers, the reality of what was happening wouldn't dawn on them like a lightning strike. No, it was more like a slow, cold, creeping tide.
Think about it. Even as the crew starts uncovering the lifeboats, the mood on deck is mostly just confusion. Not fear, not yet. People were still so wrapped up in that powerful myth of invincibility. It's like, why on earth would I get into a tiny, cold boat when I'm on the safest ship in the entire world?
This number tells you everything you need to know about that initial disbelief on board. This is how many people boarded the very first lifeboat that was launched. Just 28.
And that boat's capacity? 65. It was less than half full. It is a chilling testament to the power of that unsinkable myth. They simply couldn't comprehend the danger they were in.
The turning point, the thing that shattered the illusion, was when the ship's angle became too steep to ignore. As the bow dipped lower and lower and the giant propellers at the stern rose completely out of the water, you couldn't deny the laws of physics anymore. That disbelief finally, horribly, gave way to a dawning, chilling horror.
And with that realization, the whole atmosphere on deck changed completely. That slow disbelief just curdled into raw panic for some and into a quiet, profound acceptance for others.
The panic was fueled by a really grim calculation. Just look at this. There was only enough lifeboat space for about 1,200 people, but there were over 2,200 on board. For 1,000 people, there was simply no way out.
In those final, awful minutes, you really saw the full spectrum of human nature. You had some people fighting desperately trying to get a place on any boat they could, but then you had others who faced their end with this incredible stoicism. Eyewitnesses all talked about how the ship's band continued to play and how Captain Smith was last seen at his post going down with his ship.
The final countdown was agonizingly slow and then terrifyingly fast. Help was on the way, but it was hours too far. At 2:05 in the morning, the last lifeboat pulled away, leaving over 1,500 souls behind. And then, 15 minutes later, under that immense strain, the great ship broke apart and disappeared into the Atlantic for good. But the sinking of the ship, that wasn't the end of the story. For those left behind in the dark, the most terrible part of this tragedy was just beginning.
The people in the lifeboats, they were haunted by the sounds coming from the darkness, a sound that, according to survivors, slowly faded over the course of about 20 to 30 minutes until there was only silence.
The cause of that silence was the water itself. Its temperature was 2 degrees below freezing. At that temperature, hypothermia is swift and it is lethal. Most people would have survived for only a matter of minutes.
When the rescue ship Carpathia finally arrived an hour later, the final devastating tally became clear. Only 706 people were pulled from the lifeboats. More than 1,500 were lost, a stark testament to the failure of both technology and foresight.
The story of the Titanic is a technological failure, yes, but it's also a story of human belief, of panic, and of incredible courage. It forces us to ask, when our greatest creations fail us, is it the steel that's truly flawed, or is it our own overconfidence in the very systems we build?